All right, now that we understand a little bit more about color and gamut, it's time to start balancing color in some of our images. So we are going to open the image in our Chapter 5 documents called Scott and Danielle, JPEG. And we're going to work through several ways of balancing color. So in this chapter, we're going to be focusing on color balance adjustment layer, the eyedroppers using levels or curves, and actually using the curves panel using mathematical input numbers. So the first thing we're going to do is kind of begin with a visual assessment. So as we look at this picture and as you look on your screen, you should tell that there's some sort of a color cast here. Something's not quite right. Look for objects or things of a known color. So we don't necessarily know the color of this chair behind them. We don't necessarily know what color red is in this wrapping paper, but we do probably think that this is a white or a cream sweater. We know what skin tones should look like, and in a way we know what John Deere should look like. So especially if you look at skin tones in this white shirt, there's something that's off. And memory colors are the good ones to look for first. So skin colors, teeth, teeth should be white. So look for those first. What we also need to think of is look for things that should be neutral, meaning no color cast. It doesn't mean that they're pure gray, it just means that they don't have a color cast. So the easiest color target to work with is that neutral gray because the red pixels are the same number as the green as the blue. So if it's 100 red, the RGB is 100, 100, 100, meaning no one color is winning the tug of war and giving it a cast. In this image, I'm going to guess in red, green, blue, there's a little bit of a green cast here that's giving it, green is kind of winning the contest is what I'm going to guess. Let's look under window, under histogram. We don't necessarily want to look at it specifically in levels or anything like that. We just want to look at the histogram. So I have it up here. It's a fairly small window. I might try to pull it over here and see if I can make it bigger. Guess not. There's our histogram. So left to right is dark black to white in luminosity. So we can tell that this is a darker image. Something that we can do in this option, in the extra information menu, is we can see all channels individually. So when we look at this, we see red is kind of spread across the gamut, pretty much, or not the gamut, that's the wrong word, I don't want to confuse you. Red is spread from left to right fairly equally, and the blue version kind of matches it. Green, I'm reading these wrong, red and green are fairly similar. Blue is the one that is not as drawn out over here to the right. So red and green are kind of winning this tug of war in here. And that's something that we would want to improve. So how we're going to go about fixing this, we're going to do it various different ways. I'm going to close my histogram and I'm going to go back to the layer panel, and we're going to do all of these options non-destructively. So we're going to use the layer adjustments. So come down to that button. And we want to add a color balance layer adjustment. So that's this first option right here. And here is the window, the panel that we can actually try different things. One thing to note is that there are 3 things you can target, and the midtones is always the default. If you wanted to target the colors in just the shadows or just the highlights, you can do them individually as well, but we're going to start with the midtones. This should always be your first adjustment, and if you can't fix it, then you look at highlights and shadows. So sometimes your image is going to get darker or lighter as you make these color adjustments, and if that happens, you can check this box that is already checked, preserve luminosity, so that's going to prevent that from happening. So from here on out, in this version, it's up to you as you see fit. So let's just take the slider and add some more red. Ugh, that wasn't good. Let's add some more cyan. Ugh, not good. Put her back in the middle at 0. Let's try adding some more green. Not good. How about some more magenta? Well, got a little bit better. How about more blue? More yellow? I don't know. Somewhere in there, maybe. So you can see that you can't just tweak one of these. You kind of have to play around with a bunch of them. So it was too yellow, add a little bit of green, or blue, which is taking out yellow. Pull this back a little bit. So play around with these 3 sliders. Obviously, this was subjective, very subjective. What you're doing, I might think is horrible. What I just did, you might think is horrible. Based on that, this is very rarely is this a version that you actually use. Color professionals certainly are not using this version, but if you needed to make a quick fix, not bad. So we are going to leave this adjustment layer intact, but we're just going to turn off the eyeball. And when we do that, we go back to the original. That's a good improvement. Turning that on and off shows us. So we're back at our original image. And from here, we're going to compare this color balance with other options. All right, background layer is selected. You have the eyeball of color balance off. We don't want any interference with that, and we're going to make a new adjustment layer. And this time, we're going to do levels, but we're going to do manual levels. We're not going to rely on any auto or anything like that. When we're in here, we're going to look at the individual histograms. So in our properties panel, we're going to click on this option right here. And why is this not expanding? Hold on 1 second. Yeah, it's not in the menu because it's even easier. It's right here in the drop down. So this is the composite view of the histogram right here, RGB. However, we can look at it channel by channel. Here is our red histogram, our green, and our blue. We're going to take this one channel by channel. Rather than in our last chapter, chapter 4, we kept it at the composite and we just dragged this one over and we just tweaked these in one channel or in the composite. Now we're going to do it channel by channel, and this is going to be an even better result. So I'm going to move the green over just a smidge to kind of come into the foothills, and I'm definitely going to move the white point of the green channel over, brighten it up. I keep saying green. It was red all along. I hope you guys don't think I'm completely insane, but I feel like I'm getting there. Next, we're going to go to the green channel. I'm going to tweak the dark point just a little bit, and I'm definitely going to tweak the white point. I'm going to bring it over here into the foothills. Better. Now I'm going to go to the blue channel. This one doesn't need tweaking on this end, but look how off it is on the bright point. We're going to drag that over into the foothills, and wow, that made a big difference. So if we go back to the composite, we can see where it's dragged out. All 3 of those individually are dragged out, so there are no gaps, and this is our resulting improvement, which I think is quite nice. This works really well as long as it's a typical image, which means it has dark points, midpoints, and white points, which this one certainly does. So if we compare that correction to our color balance, here's color balance, here's the other one, levels. I think levels is much better. And then also remember last week how we learned how to make layer comps, so we could rotate through these changes much faster than we are right now by turning eyeballs on and off. So that is the color balance adjustment layer, which is kind of just eyeballing it, pretty subjective, and then the levels, but doing it manually. And because of that, I'm going to change the name of this to be manual levels. And I might even call it RGB levels. I just want to remind you that in this exercise, in this chapter, we are targeting the red, blue, green, and blue layers separately, channels. I'm starting to think I should not be recording tonight. I don't know what it is. I can't speak. All right. I'm still going to go on though. The show must go on.